are the reality distortion fielding.
We are the reality distortion fielding.
We are the reality distortion fielding.
Will return. Will return. Will
We are the reality distortion
return.
fielding. The falsehood will demonize your sensitivity. The falsehood will claim the press is our enemy. To cry fake news that preempt remedy suggests false identity. We are the reality distortion fielding. We are the reality distortion fielding. The field is real and the real is real. We are the reality distortion fielding. We are the reality distortion fielding. The falsehood will tell you intuition's faulty. The falsehood will tell you facts aren't factual actually. We are the reality distortion fielding. We are the reality distortion fielding. We are the reality distortion fielding. The falsehood will groom you not to question, just believe. The falsehood can rob you of the choice you once perceived. We are the reality distortion fielding. We are the reality distortion fielding. The falsehood will tell you it's the one and only. The falsehood will tell you it's the one and only. We are the reality distortion fielding. We are the reality distortion fielding. The falsehood will sow down intuition knows things. We We are the reality distortion fieldings.
From the Mystery Font in Minneapolis, Minnesota, this is a response to the real Donald Trump and the actual J.D. Vance. We are the reality distortion fielding. That means that we are the minds that have always been the minds. That means the shoulders you're standing on are looking over your shoulder. That means if you coerce and lie, even with mastery of a dark triad predator, we will eventually understand that you have donned the falsehood. You see, Darvonald, when you scalded us with the shocking boundary violation of asserting that you would keep us in suspense about following the terms of service of the most powerful office on earth. The big lie of portraying that you deserved to swing such a sword in the face of anyone destabilized the ability to manifest a defense. And we effectively submitted because no one said no. The Secret Service will be at the stage in 1 minute, and you have 2 minutes. You have 1 minute and 55 seconds to leave the stage under your own power, because you just threatened to steal the power of the United States of America. No one keeps us in suspense. No one threatens to keep us in suspense. You ridiculous coward, the new Colossus might have said. But was it Chris Wallace and Hillary Clinton? Neither of them managed to say no. No one threatens the United States, and certainly not in a debate where they're looking to hold office. Leave the stage. What happened? Were they the only people in the world? Were they the only people in America who was watching? Were they the only people who could have said, absolutely the Falcon Crest not? No, stop. No, we're not moving forward. You just disqualified yourself. Is it that, like the Nazis, we're just trying to keep our job? Or that it needs to be written down somewhere if we, specifically, at some moment in time, have to be the hero who does our job? The hero like Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss, who did not need anything special written into the Constitution besides the basic frame of a belief in humanity, our right to live and be free and to pursue happiness. And what a union of people who don't need to be told to be hardworking and may disagree can do if they band together in a union. You tried to threaten America again. You ridiculous Nazis. No one threatens us. No one who wants to be invited to the table. Unless you want therapy in which there's a better way to ask for it, and it doesn't need to be so public. But if it is, it's coming for you. If you keep asking for therapy or jail, which is what your Nazi rhetoric demands of us, to administer to your Ku Klux cucked Nazi coward asses. If that's not what you're looking for, then put down the dog whistles and apologize. Right now. Apologize! If you step into the street again and again crying wolf, and we say where, and as you slink back into the night, you say somewhere, I don't have to tell you. Or maybe there's not a wolf at all. We know not to trust you. If you say, I just saw the wolf, but nobody knows what the wolf looks like. If you say fake news and offer no remedy or block a remedy. It at least suggests, if not betrays, false identity. Two faces doesn't mean two faces. It means one face and a mask. Musical chair faces means masks and one face. Does it not? Who is the falsehood? And once we realize which person is the person who has donned the falsehood, who is that person, actually? Who is Donald Trump? Once we realize that he is an imposter of himself, that he is not who he says he is. Who is he? Apparently he is likely who we have always said, he doesn't mean that. He didn't mean that. He isn't that. He wouldn't do that. He couldn't be aiming directly for what he says he's aiming for. And what of J.D. Vance? A Sieg-Heiling apprentice showing allegiance to deference to a cult leader over deference to duty for what fosters a presidency, or more importantly, a democratic republic. And the presidency should foster the democratic republic. And so taking the presidency to do something other than that is an act of war. Plain and simple. Working to remove the agency or terrorize into coerced submission the will or hope or spirit of the voters is an act of war. It is an act of terrorism. It is an act of bloody murder, especially given measures such as illegalization of homelessness, a categorical throwing of acid into the face of Christ, but worse, part of a trap to mine slaves from planet Earth and bring them here to prison to be slaves. Send us the wretched refuse of your teeming shore, the homeless, and we will exploit them while celebrating it. This is similar to the degradation coming from Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, because whatever J.D. Vance believes, it certainly seems to be deadly enslavement of women consistent with patriarchal terrorism and white supremacist terrorism, and the belief structures that make a person inhabit that. As far as I can tell, J.D. Vance is a Ku Klux Klan loving Nazi, and we are in incredible danger to have him anywhere near power or influence. He is not a serious or safe person. He is not a good human being because he is incredibly compromised. He is infected by Ku Klux Klan intolerance. He has cancer. Whether or not Donald Trump has cancer, he is happy to dance with the cancer dancer. And I'm seeing multiple things and saying I see them. These are Nazis and Nazi collaborators. This is decimation. And that is who just told us he's going to keep us in suspense. That's who just told us he will not even reference, let alone answer a question about whether or not MAGA and Project 2025 means to separate and tear apart families. This is the ridiculous brown shirt J.D. Vance. Telling us that he is going to look forward. J.D. Vance, who took great pains to waste multiple precious moments of the debate to talk about how the questions meant a lot to him, because of his past that really informs him intersectionally about hardship and what it means to need to work for a living and not have a silver spoon. That the multiple references to his history shows that he's happy to dally and dangle and dilly and dally and dilly and dally, don't he? This ridiculous, polished, preened, ozempicized coward actually told us to our face he doesn't have to tell us to our face. Why did you show up to the debate? To debase us? Why did you show up to the debate? To assault us with the shocking boundary violation that you don't have to tell us anything you don't want? Why did you show up to the debate? Why did you show up to the debate at all? Why did you show up to the debate at all? Why? Why did you show up to the debate at all? Why? Did M not prepare you better than to not let you know why? M must have told you why you were being put into that position. M must have been specific. M is usually fairly specific, aren't they? For those, JD, who don't know who M is, Stephen Miller really has a brand. Stephen Miller is the Nazi who gave us kids in cages. M is the Nazi who gave us kids in cages. M is Stephen Miller. At Stephen M is Stephen Miller, known as M. And M gave us kids in cages, and M is telling us that there will be the largest deportations ever in history, with licking his chops glee. A similar variety to the vampiric smile of Marjorie Taylor Greene, or the "I'm the bear, you crazy human" soft, terroristic grin of J.D. Vance. These are patriarchal terrorists. They want to rape women without punishment. They want terroristic control and enslavement. They are white supremacists, and they are terrorists, and they are largely murderers or connected to networks of willing murderers. These are the poison wool blankets diaspora, who didn't heal a falcon thing. my ancestry comes with a name connected to slavery. My ancestors profited, people with my last name, profited a great deal from slavery. I don't need to know that to know that I, through privilege, in all kinds of ways, profit and have benefit that I can utilize for the resistance and the human race rather than for white supremacist patriarchal terror and the further extension of this crime. MAGA is the extension of the crime. M, the murderer, or the murderer, is the prototypical child molesting, child murdering, child missinging murderer who takes glee in leaving detention centers wide open, fetid pools of filth, while advising President Trump on January 28th that night, so they confirm that COVID is coming and that it will be the most dangerous thing in your presidency. Let's not cause a panic, M says to Trump. And so for 6 weeks, in a strategic plan to dose people and kill as many Americans as possible, M, Stephen Miller, at Stephen M, who looks a little bit like this, Stephen Miller is interested in eating people. Stephen Miller is interested in raping people. Stephen Miller is interested in utilizing Hitler's technology of genocide engine stoking. He constructed the big lie that Donald Trump pumps to this day. Virtually every lie, and certainly anything related to Mein Kampf that Donald Trump speaks or that J.D. Vance speaks, likely came smooched out of the mouth or the asshole or both of Stephen Miller. This Nazi means to kill another 1.2 million people in the first day. This man is the murderer. Stephen Miller is the murderer. Stephen Miller is the murderer. Stephen Miller remains at large. He currently remains at large. Stephen Miller 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 currently remains at large. If you see Stephen Miller, remember that Stephen Miller utilizes Darvo. 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 Stephen Miller utilizes Darvo to deny, attack, and reverse victim and offender. The baseless denial and groundless attack intended to destabilize and delegitimize a question or assertion or held power. And that is done in order to reverse the victim and offender. Keep that Darvo card handy, Scoop Troop, because when you are talking to a Nazi, when you are talking to a dark triad predator, when you're talking to a liar, you will encounter Darvo. And it's good to keep it in mind because some people are unnaturally good at lying, or naturally, uncannily good at lying. Some people have an amazing skill to deliver the sense that everything is okay. And hey, it's just good that we've got this under control. You've got someone you can trust at the helm of this party, everybody. Look at this confident haircut. Look at this wonderful close double E shave. Look at this wonderful lotioned neck. Golly geez, you could set a watch by that lotioned neck. And I wonder if someone doesn't. But maybe the veneer is something not to be distracted by. Maybe people are right to have difficulty choking down the bone of shocking boundary violations that we can viscerally feel. Maybe we are correct to recognize harm. Maybe we're correct to recognize that a man like Stephen Miller or Kevin Roberts hold dangerous intent. We can see, if we care to look, we can see that we're dealing with minds of malice. We can see that we're dealing with harm. Why does someone point into the camera you will be looking at, especially if they know you'll be looking at the camera, and make a joke or a gesture or reveal something unthinkable or unspeakable? Why do they defile you or threaten to? Why do they demonstrate before everyone that they own you and your life is already done? You just haven't received the declassification notice yet. Why would anyone do that? Is there any reason under the sun to do that unless you want to tell someone you will submit to me. Is it a joke to say you will submit to me? Is it a joke to say I have absolute authority? Is it a joke to say I don't want the responsibility of what I must protect in this job to be mine if I can't hurt what I'm supposed to protect in the job? How else can I protect these people if I can't harm them with impunity? Why would someone ask for the right to be able to do anything? Why would someone who has told us you should get rid of that tax code if you don't like me using it, if you think it's dirty and scuzzy and bad, you think I'm bad to use it, get rid of it. By the way, I deserve immunity for everything and anything, and I should never be punished for anything, no matter if I do something terrible. Why would someone ask for the right to do great evil with impunity? Because that's what they want. Because that's what they're taking. Why would someone write a 922-page document of aspirational language and thinly cloaked promises to sow mass murder, concentration camps, murder of political enemies, disenfranchisement of everyone who is not a white cis man or their pets? We are facing the Nazis. And whether or not Donald Trump is a true believer in that particular virulent hate, he certainly is a racist and bigot. And he certainly is allied with this axis of evil bandwidth. And the Allies won't have it. This is why we have debates, because we get to ask questions. And if a terrorist like Kevin Roberts were to tell us he wanted to run for office, or if a terrorist like Kevin Roberts were to tell us that he thought he deserved to remain free after threatening everyone in America with bloody civil war that we can survive if we get out of his way for. When Kevin Roberts asserts that he should remain free rather than in monitored therapy or jail, what are we supposed to do with that? What are we supposed to do with gaslight and a total lack of contrition? With someone who offers an opinion piece to USA Today, and the opinion piece is about how the vice president who's running for the presidency is wrong about him. He's writing an opinion piece about how someone is wrong with him. Is that really the forum? Is this really the bandwidth of paternal betrayal, trauma, gaslight bullshit? This man is a fucking white fire terrorist. He should be in cuffs. He should be in jail. He should have been in jail since he made that ridiculous, stupid Ku Klux Klan threat. He's a little boy. He is a ridiculous little boy. There's no reason to tolerate the terroristic bullshit of Kevin Roberts. There is no reason under the sun to tolerate the caustic, acidic toxin of Kevin Roberts being free on the streets. There is no earthly reason why he should be free. There is no reason why Kevin Roberts should be free. None. Likewise, it's good to be aware there are consequences for people making threats. And last night, of course, refers to the debate. J.D. Vance is a fucking coward and a traitor. Let's talk about what you don't do, boy. Let's talk about what you don't fucking do, boy. Let's talk about what you don't fucking do, boys. You see, you don't fail to answer questions that reflect whether or not we can trust you to follow the terms of office. It's actually your responsibility to answer questions when we ask them. Ridiculous, petulant fucks! It's your responsibility. And no one coerces or grooms or pushes through us. No one blitzkriegs us. No one blitzes us. Cowardly, protected mobster fucks. Nazi Ku Klux cucks. You have no ground, no deference to burn. Fuck you fucks. Fuck you Ku Klux cuck fucks. No one gets talked to that way. No one. No one! Don't ever threaten us again. Don't ever fail to answer questions that show whether or not you go to jail. You don't tell us. You don't tell us. Why was there a debate? The same reason Donald Trump should have shown up for primary debates. You stupid, stupid, stupid fucks. You are the election interference. You want to move the lens a little bit, but you are the fucking election interference. I know you want, no, but we're going to look forward, but why do we ask you questions? And what are the questions about? They sometimes observe and involve and adhere to the past. Why are you telling us about how my history and my mom was poor and so it matters to me. Well, that's looking back, Jack. That's not looking advance. That's looking behance. Prince'll prance. So fuck your anti-dance. No. No! No, you will not keep us in suspense. No, the suspense fucking ends. Good night. We're not friends. You have treated Americans like enemies. You, Trump, cheated every single American and everyone on this stolen land when you broke the watch, shattering your oath and trying to crush it into a bloody, shitty scepter. You ridiculous sad sack. There are two options on January 6th. Either you had volition, or you had incompetence, or you had both. But nowhere in between is good host. If you meant to do it, or you didn't mean to do it, you either couldn't stop yourself from making it happen, or you couldn't stop it from happening when you invited the entire thing into being. It's either blisteringly disqualifying incompetence or blisteringly disqualifying blistering evil. Both of which are disqualifying. There's not an area between that's any better for anyone. Not better for you, not better for us. So piff, paff, punk. Fuck no. There's no deference. And here's the thing. After we stopped you, after you promised you had proof which lured people, it wasn't the day after the election. You lured people for over 2 months. And reality distorted that, well, there's just some reason why the proof isn't showing up. But the reason is that Donald Trump goes to press send on that email with that 1 or 2 or 3 or 3 million scraps of proof. He just can't press send on that email for 2 months. It sounds like it was really important to you to promise that you had proof and then not send it. Because you knew that that was the lure, drawing people there. That anyone who was not already in magical thinking land, absorbing you as a cult leader and wincing after the idea that you might think they'd be near cool to have a beer with. You already had thousands and millions of people over a barrel. You'd already trained people, enough people, to enjoy the ritualistic Eucharist of believing something totally batshit for you. Oh, I'll believe that, sure. Oh yeah, for you, anything. I can swallow that for you. Oh, that incredible degrading act that you just did to that person, oh, they must have deserved it because it's you. Oh, that thing that you did to a 12-year-old girl that makes me want to shit my own body out of my mouth? I guess that I can, sure, because it's you. Okay, she must have deserved to have her panties thrown in her face and have her family threatened. Okay, I can celebrate that. You, Trump, target what is most precious to people and threaten it. You hold it in the balance and hold it in suspense and threaten it or torture it. We will not be held in suspense. We are human beings, and we care, and we are cared for, and we will not be treated without care. And since you don't care, and since your lack of an ability to care, or to steward your lack of caring, that's what makes you such good fits for fascist rule. That's what makes you such bad fits for any position of authority. That's what makes you such terrible, terrible fits for America. You should leave. You have Ku Klux Klan answer. You have cancer. You have cancer. And it's your responsibility to get help to treat that, not to spread it. We're going to stop the spread of your cancer. Your cancer of Nazi, patriarchal terrorist intolerance and domination is wrong. And you will be stopped. Perfect. Perfect stopped. Do you know what that means? It's coming to teach you all about it. 5 questions. If you're not cowards, you'll both individually come here to the mystery font for 5 questions. But we do know the answer to whether or not you are cowards. We know that. Because you need someone like M to give you torches. And yet you're also happy to use them. This is also where we're at. No! Ridiculous, defeated, beaten, and excoriated, disgraced former president. No one threatens a purge. No one who wants to be a leader, no one who wants to be a leader in America, no one who wants to be a leader in America threatens a purge. So the answer is no. You will be removed. If you speak like that, again, you will be removed. You will be removed. This is a rhetorical question now. Do you understand that? That you will be removed. That the new Colossus does not tolerate dictatorship or exhortations to violence. We eat Nazis for breakfast. Do you understand? Are you awake? Would you like to be woke? Wake the mother falcon up, because you will not be fucking tolerated if you are intolerant. The tolerance paradox is thus: we tolerate everything. We have tolerance for everyone, except for those showing intolerance. So the answer to your intolerance is no. And that includes your intolerance for facing the duty of answering questions if you want the watch. For instance, Darvonald, what happened to the watch we gave you last time? Kick a kid. What happened to the watch you received in 2017? You asked us if we would have the confidence to give you the watch, which you would return. Do you remember that, confidence artist? Do you remember that you told us you would return the watch? Oh, that's better. It was so bright. Do you remember? Donald, hey, do you remember? No. It's not just wrong, but it's absolutely unthinkable for a person who wants to do good to propose a day of people getting tough with violence. There's no one who would propose that. There's no one who would propose that. So you are trying to groom us to accept you spewing unfathomably impossible lies, to swallow us witnessing and experiencing excoriating torture of defiling degradation. And you want us to submit to you having absolute authority and immunity from punishment for anything? What the falcon crest kind of monster are you? You don't cultivate confidence by trying to be a villain so mesmerizing that we forget it's not a movie. You don't try to groom people to compare you to Hannibal Lecter. You don't try to bring our focus to what will he do next, and will this be good for Hannibal Lecter? You don't make jokes about people's frailties and needs. You don't lift one solitary finger to insult another person if it's in your mind to foster a successful, rational, and safe presidency. You show no signs of being anything but a continuation of your insurrection. Whoop. Ha ha ha. Oh, goodness gracious, where has the camera gone? Oh, the technology. Oh, the technology. You see, we may be on shoestring budgets, but we will make things work. We will find a way to pursue happiness, but we shouldn't be fighting our government. We shouldn't be distracted by terroristic displays from people who are supposed to be protecting us. That's never supposed to be what's happening. We're never supposed to be afraid that a president or presidential candidate is going to try to ruin our lives. But that's what we have with Donald Trump. If Donald Trump were to get a hold of the gangbusters information about how there's actually a presidential candidate out there, there's proof. I mean, there's all this stuff, about things that Donald Trump did. But what if there was a different case that people aren't talking about, actually? And, Donald Trump might like to have a little distraction from all of his cases. Does he realize that there is evidence of a presidential candidate who's in the field now, and still has a chance, so at least would be worth talking about? Donald, do you realize that there's somebody who actually is on the record having targeted American citizens? Like, that could throw everything, out of balance from where it is right now. If people really realized Kamala Harris is running against the man who targeted Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss, and not just stochastically terrorized them, but who stalked them. Who stalked them and tried to ruin their lives. That there is a presidential candidate, someone who is proven to have been in charge of trying to destroy the lives of 2 loyal election workers. Because Donald Trump has to realize that this candidate who's in the race now, who did that, is going to see justice come for that. In fact, Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss is one of their attackers in this whole affair is Rudy Giuliani, who is paying millions of dollars for performing many of these attacks on behalf of this candidate. And Donald Trump might be familiar with the candidate because the candidate is Donald Trump. Because while president and after, Donald Trump continues a long-standing campaign. Donald Trump has not apologized. Donald Trump has not admitted that he knows and tried to cause the distress and torturous harm of 2 loyal election workers, let alone that they're just people, let alone that they're human beings, but that they're actually doing the work of our democracy and doing it faithfully and standing up under false assertions. But these are not just false assertions that then are met and realized and revoked. No, that hasn't been rescinded. Besmirching, incriminating assertions made against these faithful beautiful, wonderful people have not been rescinded. And Rudy Giuliani terroristically, maniacally, in deranged fashion, continues to rack up legal fees, seemingly specifically to continue terrorism against these people. That this gaslight and lack of respect is exactly the kind of dehumanization that Nazis like you, JD, and Donald, that dark triad predators do this to people. It's not just there's a chip on the board that's in the wrong place and, oh, you lied and I can move that or I cannot. It's that people realize it can do devastating effect to someone, to their psyche. It's not just a moment. This is damage to human beings and to human beings' sense of character and being seen in the world. Donald Trump and J.D. Vance come from the Alex Jones and Marjorie Taylor Greene school of dismemberment communication. Marjorie Taylor Greene is a vomit storm of volcanic lava level stomach acid, so that the incredible callous contempt, the insane malice, the abject gleeful willingness, the abandon and voracious appetite to torture people with how she communicates, to shower them with hate, to shower them with an attack of malicious hate, such that they never want to deal with her again, and are overpowered and coerced. That is a bandwidth that has nothing to do with holding a union together. That is a bandwidth of trying to cultivate lynch mobs, of trying to catalyze absolute fear of fear itself, and trying to weaponize people who can be disabled by that and coaxed into fight or flight or freeze, a loss of executive function, and easily pointed around by Nellie Holson's hand of white suspicion. It's utter degradation. It's torture of people's psyches for the purpose of spreading white fire terrorism, of spreading the falsehood. These people are trying to spread the myth that dismantling white supremacy and dismantling whiteness as it has minted white supremacy means we're dismantling white people. That's really dumb. It's a dumb idea. That's like saying that dismantling the murderous intent within a murderer makes them no longer a person. Those things aren't connected. White supremacist terrorism and all of the woven hatred and internalized hatred that comes along with white supremacy, all of that, it may be woven through us culturally somewhat, but those are the traumas, those are the abuses, those are the continued generational tortures that we pass on and hide. It's never been good for any of us to commit partial suicide for our whole lives. It's never been good for any of us. And we have the chance to elide. We have the chance to elude that ride. We can actually heal it. But people like Ron DeSantis and Tucker Carlson and Elon Musk and Marjorie Taylor Greene and Carrie Lake and Sarah Huckabee Sanders and Greg Abbott and Mastriano, these are Ku Klux Klan allegiant terrorists. No one who is performing election denying should be allowed to run for office. That's basic. That's just a basic thing. That shouldn't be difficult to understand, actually. Really. That shouldn't be difficult to understand at all. That should be simple, actually. You know? That should actually be quite simple. We are not going to allow intolerance to have a path anymore. We're not going to allow people who tell us that we don't get an answer about basic tentpole things to have the room. You can walk off the fucking stage, but not forward into candidacy. You can leave. If you can't tell us we will follow the rules, you don't get to ride the ride. You don't get to play the game. You don't get to have an office you don't agree to foster. I mean, how idiotic does someone have to be to think that we would be that idiotic? Why would anyone do that? Why would anyone give up the United States just to prove to a cult leader that we'll believe whatever he says and do whatever he says? That's what this is. Has anyone seen the people who have started taking up his Sir monologue instruction? We all realize that when he does the monologues about, Sir, I need to, someone came up to me and said, oh, sir, you don't understand what it means to us that you, those are all made up, right? And those are probably made up on the spot by Trump. But what's more, those are instruction manuals for the kinds of things he is grooming us to do, the kinds of supplication. Just like he lets people know that they're terrible people if they have reasonable questions, because he doesn't believe that he needs to account for anything, that he has absolute authority and is above and impunable, not punable. Can we not see it? Can we not see that he is just trying to scare us from being able to say no? Can we not see that it takes us actually yet and so manifesting the courage to say no? Is there anyone on earth who is willing to say no? Yes. Yes, I'm willing to say no. I'm definitely willing to say no. Because no one does that to us. Do you understand? No one tells us they will keep us in suspense you should be ejected from the process. JD, you tried to cover up the hours of insurrection, of violent, illegal, terrorist, MAGA insurrection that your orange tried to hocus pocus with. You tried to whitewash over all of that. And what's more, you tried to whitewash over the fact that not only did Donald Trump attempt a bloody coup, a bloody physical and clerical coup, you tried not only to erase that he attempted a coup, you tried to erase that he was beaten. He was stopped. His coup was stopped, arrested, and he admitted that was bad. It wasn't a small thing, because admitting that was bad then meant that against his wishes, so not so peaceful, Chumley, lying, MAGA, fuck, against your wishes, against Marjorie Taylor Greene's wishes, against all of MAGA Trader Greed's wishes, you were thrown out and agreed to go. So your coup was stopped. It was arrested. But after admitting it was wrong and stopping, Donald, you soon changed your tune. You change your tune and you go and sing it. You take an anthem that is resonant of America and you sing it with people that you hoodwinked into being vicious, violent traitors. A deeply seditious and a defiling act. To take a song that is a special, a portrait of America, to take that and to sing that with people who you tricked into attacking is a multi-twist horror movie. It's really disgusting. It's an excellent example of how you defile unbelievably, how you do the unthinkable through using an unbelievable lie. You coax people to participate with you in doing the unthinkable and then make us celebrate that. So the Eucharist, you ritualize us into cult with, is about incredible terroristic abuse that vandalizes truth and fact, and vandalizes kindness, and vandalizes our expectation of decency, and vandalizes consent and property and personal autonomy. It vandalizes human rights, it vandalizes our pursuit of happiness. You vandalize us. And then you transcend that. You do incredible evil and then somehow materialize that as incredibly sacred and holy because it was Donald who used that sandpaper to put those scars on that 12-year-old's back while he raped her. And so those scars are holy. It must have been beautiful when he raped that child. It must have been beautiful. It just must have been wonderful when he drafted the letter to the New York Times calling for people to hate and to call for the murder of 5 young men he knew nothing about. It must have been beautiful when he called the papers and said, "I saw thousands of Muslims," in a massive lie, in a lie proven to be a lie, that on 9/11 he called to make a scapegoating, racist phone call. It must have been beautiful. It must have been beautiful when he said, "I don't care that they're going to hang Mike Pence." It must have been beautiful and wonderful. Oh, the unthinkable was done? Oh, that's horrible. Oh, Donald Trump did it? Oh, it must have been perfect. This is absolute madness talking. This is coercion into a cult talking. You don't love the defiling of someone unless you've internalized the idea that they are monsters, that they are not human. And or conversely, that the person telling you that that's the villain may have some kind of outsized or strange relationship to reality. And it's good to do a check of yourself. Because have you been compromised by the falsehood? Because we do all, certainly we all are aware, are we not, of the dangers of scapegoating? Did we not learn on Sesame Street about how rumors are dangerous? Didn't Mr. Rogers tell us about how honesty helps? Didn't Rosie the Riveter tell us that we can do it? We've had all kinds of people lauding us over the years, and coaxing us to believe in ourselves, but then we've had 9 years of being horribly abused. We've had 9 years of being told we're garbage. Do you not realize, if you're a follower of Trump, do you not realize that he's degrading all of us, including you, like all of the time? When you're standing with a group of people and someone makes an insult to someone in the room, in the group, someone makes an insult. I'm still trying to get this camera to go again, get going. Hopefully it's just the cable that needs to be replaced. But when someone makes an insult against someone, that's really a massive violation. And you need to get back to zero. If, someone makes a huge violation against someone, you repair that, or then you go on with that being the standard. Like, we have to hold a basic standard, because Donald Trump and J.D. Vance and Marjorie Taylor Greene, these are terrorists. They're going to be predatory upon our feelings and work to fuck our feelings because they enjoy seeing people compromised by pain. It's that simple. And using that as a method to preempt action, as a method to preempt debate, as a method to shock people into forgetting what we were here for in the first place. We have to take these kinds of shocking boundary violations as a cry for help. And we're empowered to do so because these are not within the rules. And because whether or not Donald Trump or J.D. Vance want to acknowledge it, they, that is you, Donald, and you, J.D., can and will and must be held responsible. I'm pointing into that lens in case it turns on. You will be held responsible. Do you not realize that it's just as easy for people who watch you say, when we expect an answer from you, the people who watch you say, oh, we're going to look forward, and yes, but actually we get to ask you a question, and we're asking about that thing that's tied to your boot that you dragged in with you. Oh yes, but the camera's up. No, the camera's down on your boot right now. Little boy. So the question is, did Donald Trump lose? Right? It's, did Donald Trump lose? Right? It's, did Donald Trump lose in 2020, JD? And the reason why it's important for you to answer that question is because you answer the questions we ask, or else. And else means you're ejected. Else means you're rejected. Else means you are caught red-hatted and red-handed. You're caught red-hatted. You are a Nazi. You're caught red-hatted. You are a fascist. You're caught red-hatted. You just tried to steal an election preemptively by telling us you're not going to obey, and we will just submit. That's what I'll keep you in suspense means. And that's what I'll keep you in suspense about whether I believe he kept us in suspense means. You ridiculous fucking terrorist. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. We're going to focus on, no. You try to degrade our expectation that common sense holds the day. Talking about common sense while you stand on the battleship insurrection. Why in the fuck else does someone who attacked the country to stay and hasn't changed his tune come back again? Not acknowledging the 14th Amendment, not asking, can I run? Not mentioning his crimes, but instead saying, holding him accountable for his crimes and for his bloody, illegal coup is election interference. A coup is election interference! You fuck! You, Donald Trump, interfered with the election. You fucking did it. End of story. And you lost. Even with the most well-documented campaign of election fraud in history by Trump, by you still fucking lost. And you lose even greater, in an even greater, more catastrophic way to this day, because your little baby boy balls get all pinched by the thought of saying, oh yeah, I lost. You actually can't take it. You cannot take the truth that you are a loser. You cannot take the truth that even cheating couldn't get you over the hump, chump. Because you think you are the verb of your name. You think you are the verb of your name. That's what it is to do and say the unthinkable, and not just get away with it, but be celebrated for it and turn that shit into shit wine. That at least you can make people drink with a smile, if not somehow distort their brains to enjoy, at least for a while. You love to defy people, Trump. And I think, JD, that that's why you like to hang out too. I think that you as well I think that you like the exploitation. I think that you like that a lot. Why else, JD, would you be going after no-fault divorce, which will legalize the rape by men of their women wives? Why else? Why else would you like that? Why else would you want to remove no-fault divorce, if not to help in your path of enslaving women as part of Trump's Project 2025? I imagine that's what Kevin Roberts is most interested in, is being able to assure all of his friends who are in danger of going to jail for torturing women all over the country, that not only you're not going to jail, but you can just keep on doing it. Keep just assaulting women and controlling their lives, and men just get to treat people that aren't white men like toys. That is Project 2025. And that is why these ridiculous, cowardly Nazis don't want to talk about it and instead use shocking boundary violations to break down our executive function into panic. Shocking boundary violations like invading the Sudetenland are how a dark triad predator asserts coercive dominance. And we have a new shocking boundary violation to talk about, because just like he said he could shoot somebody in the street and not lose anybody, and then he did shoot people in the street by lying about proof that he has never had about something that didn't happen. Because projecting his own fraud was so important to him and so encompassing that it worked. And he fooled people. He fooled enough people to go to Washington, D.C. and attack for him. And someone who does that and doesn't apologize and then says it wasn't that bad and then says he's going to pardon those people, what part of that says in any way that it's anything but an attack? What part of that says that he's coming back for anything else than to finish the insurrection? In fact, that's exactly what all of this says. That's exactly what all of this says. Everything that he has said and done tells us that he has absolute authority, that he will do whatever he wants, and he wants the ability and protection to do terrible things and not be punished for it. The only person who wants the right to do terrible things and not be punished for it is the person who wants the right to do terrible things and not be punished for it. There's never been a role of justice or kindness that requires the ability to be a supervillain. That doesn't exist. It doesn't exist at all. And now we're going to talk about how Donald Trump just called for Kristallnacht. Donald Trump just called for a Nazi MAGA Kristallnacht, for people to take it into their own hands to sow terroristic murder and violence. It is time to stop any and all entertaining of debate with people from MAGA. These are terrorists. It's time to stop the back and forth about whether or not these are racists. It's time to stop the debate about whether or not they're trying to start lynch mobs. It's time to bring them to therapy or to jail, because there's no possible sane reason to suggest a massive day of violence. Just like the insane, irresponsible, vandalistic, and terroristic idiocy of saying one would be or would want to be a dictator for a day, which is absolutely insane and havoc and doesn't exist, because no one is a dictator for a day unless they get killed on that day. Nothing like that lasts for just a minute. Nothing like that lasts for just a year. And no one jokes about things like that. They're not jokes. We are still at our Sudetenland moment, but they don't last forever. We actually need to push them off now. Donald Trump just threatened everyone with death. He just threatened everyone and normalized the idea that violence against us is acceptable. He just normalized the idea that losing some of us is acceptable. He's gone from he can shoot someone into the street, he shoots someone in the street and not lose anyone, to we can stand to lose a few of these fuckers. He has become an actualization, a beginning of the actualization of our worst fears of what he is. But we've been giving you a pass, as instructed, Donald, and as instructed, JD. We've been giving you a pass of they don't mean that and they wouldn't do that, because we want to believe that you'll just go away. We want to believe that the murderer who just told us that they're going to skin us alive didn't mean it. We want to believe they're just going to go away. We want to believe that the 922 pages of Project 2025 are just a joke. We want to believe that someone would write 922 pages of Nazi patriarchal terrorist manifesto to say we're going to come and grab your future and many of you will die, just as an exercise. But Coach Walls knows that people make plans to use them. We are the reality distortion fielding, and we can read intent. We can read in microexpression, we can read in the language that someone uses. Just because JD seems confident when he says something and kind of smiles and chuckles and aw shucksle chucksle, it doesn't mean we don't hear the Ku Kluxle clankle. it's worth looking beneath that veneer, because no one gets to blitz us. No one gets to use a shocking boundary violation to get past us. And that is exactly what the ridiculous Nazi coward J.D. Vance tried to do. He tried to blitz us. He tried to blitz us to get onto the stage to grab the microphone and say some dumb shit. But we don't have to let him onto the stage. We should disqualify them from the election entirely, because they are engaging in full-fledged Nazi scapegoating, and they just absolutely told us they will not level with us about agreeing to the terms of service. It's that basic. If you don't agree to the terms of service, you don't get to run. If you don't agree to the rules of the job, you don't get the job. The job includes rules about how one gets the job and rules about how one leaves the job. And the rules include the person who asks for the job not being above the law. We have had confessions. We have had confessions from Donald Trump in his act and word that he is here to finish the insurrection. And we have had confession in act and words that he wants, and he says needs, the ability to do incredible wrong and receive incredible adulation and no punishment for it. If we were woke, we would see that we are being asked to allow the vampire into our bed and into a packet of scalpels next to the bed that he says was there all along, but I know was something else instead. We are being coerced to accept someone's hand on our pussy. It is not just dangerous, we are being murdered as a country now. J.D. Vance is trying to murder this country now. Donald Trump is trying to murder us now. And M is trying to murder us right now. We need to be aware that Trump and Vance and M and Kevin Roberts and Charlie Kirk and Howard Blum and others of this coterie of MAGA trade agreed. They are here to enslave women, to make rape legal. They are here to murder millions of brown people. And part of the problem is we are all brown people. Some of us are just very light brown. But it's a huge, huge lie that it threatens anyone to take apart whiteness. The whole path of whiteness and white supremacy is a damning danger to us on planet Earth. And we don't have to lose connection to any part of our culture. In fact, we can rescue the actual parts of our cultures that we've become pretty disconnected from. Like, I don't hear anybody doing bagpipes and celebrating the history of that music. I hear other stuff. I hear hateful stuff. I hear hateful rhetoric and talk of history that always only goes back to white supremacist terrorism. So if that's the history that people are interested in celebrating and keeping in the public square, if it's that important to have the statue of General Lee somewhere, then it's time for us to put a cage around the statue and make that part of the display. Because those fuckers belong in prison. They belong in history in prison. Patriarchal terrorists and enslavers. We have an app for that. And we have an appetite for processing that. We have a willingness and an interest to process difficult and horrendous material damages that we have been a part of and that some of us profit from. We're not just willing to do that, we're hungry for the opportunity to be solutions. There are people who actually are happy about the opportunity to be a source of help and not a source of further crime. There are people who are excited about pulling back on all of that crime. There are people who are excited about having access to being part of human family together. As certainly makes sense. So we are trying. We're trying to perceive the falsehood amongst us. We're trying to recognize when we see it in the mirror. We're trying to recognize when we see it in a well-dressed, confidently spoken chap on television who's telling us, hey, he's just here to help families. But I'm here to say that J.D. Vance is a Ku Klux Klan allegiant terrorist, just like Donald Trump. And no one threatens or fails to answer to the basic questions that let us know if we can trust you. The ridiculous I'm your daddy and I say so paternalism, the nonsense, the condescension, and absolute terroristic contempt shown by J.D. Vance shows he does not have respect for power at all. And he's a danger. He's a danger to us. Likewise, Donald Trump, the ridiculous, the incredible, stupid, dangerous, threatening rhetoric of calling for violence is unforgivable. You need to leave. You need to inform the Republican Party that they will need to find new candidates. It's late in the game, but no one talks to us like that. It's illegal for you and wrong and a devastating moral attack. An attack on our psyches and on our emotional beings as much as our basic physical safety. It is a holistic attack on us as human beings to suggest, as someone who says that they will be our protector, that you want us to have a huge violent murder day. That is criminal and insane and cause for us to bring you by force to therapy and jail, you should be behind bars now. No one talks to us like that. No one talks to us like this. Like this bullshit right here. No one. No one talks to us like that. No one. That is terroristic cancer talk. No one talks to us like that. And any leader worth their salt also wouldn't want anyone else to talk to us like that. I mean, you could get hit by a bus. And then what would happen? If you had lured us all in to be willing, supplicant, cult lemmings, and then you get hit by a bus, which is impossible because you're a god, but what if? It's a holy bus. I mean, who can do it? You're the only one. Because if you're the only one, you wouldn't want to groom us to just accept being coerced. You wouldn't want us to accept everything that we accept from you, from anyone. No one would. No one who wants the best for people would want them to accept being in a country that goes from democracy to having a purge. That's a shocking twist that people would want if they were watching a movie. And the idea that is clearer and clearer in action, that Donald Trump, that you are trying to coax us to simply see this as a movie that we get to be extras in, that we're around for the making of. It is truly sick and another part of defiling us. The idea that we will be getting gooey fingers trying to touch the cool, amazing, fascinating, sticky, gooey, murky, who donned the falsehood? Oh my God, I can't believe he did that. Is that going to be good for him? Oh, he raped two 12-year-olds and told them he'd kill their parents if they said anything? Is this going to be good for him? Oh gosh, it's so sticky and sweet. I can't believe it. Is this going to be good for him? It's not a movie. And he's not a celebrity. And a celebrated mass murderer, a celebrated patriarchal terrorist, a celebrated white supremacist, those aren't things worth celebrating. Those are celebrated by monsters. And someone doesn't call out into a crowd looking for applause about a purge as a joke. That's testing to see how strong your lynch mob vibe is. Donald Trump has already begun illegal terroristic activities. So, Donald and JD, go to therapy. Apologize. Rescind your candidacy. Call for the dissolving, the dissolution, the decimation. Call for the unplugging and euthanasia of MAGA. Call for the euthanasia of Project 2025. And get help Because with help, you can beat apartheid. The Ku Klux Klan answer in you is your responsibility to deal with. If that has taken some kind of root, it's up for you to heal that root taking and to take your own roots back. None of our roots go to the Ku Klux Klan. There's no one who comes from that. It's an abomination. Nazism is an abomination. Fascism is an abomination. No one comes from that. And it's time for white people to help the human race by rejoining the bandwidth more clearly of people with melanin. Because we too have just a scotch. We are all human. And we need to be about the project of healing this apartheid, or it will destroy us. But more so, we need to be about it because there is so much joy that is so joyous if we actually break down walls, if we actually build some windows in the walls between us in our communities and our minds. We won't just be arguing about the last argument, and we won't just be doing a little better and sitting nearer one another at the picnic. We'll be sharing our favorite foods. We'll be singing songs. We'll be learning how to make one another's favorite recipes. We'll be talking. We'll be connecting. We'll be building alliances, and we'll be finding the others in communities that we didn't realize were ours too. If we don't act like missionaries, but we ask to join those communities that are already a part of ours but have been displaced. We're one massive community, and the incredible, violent monster that comes through the face of J.D. Vance when he tells us he's just going to move into the future and not answer that. The incredible monster of Donald Trump when he says he'll keep us in suspense, or when he says that he thinks we should have a day of tough, terroristic violence and that it would just stop. We know that we have just had acid thrown in the face of our emotions so that we are ready to accept it and buckle when it comes in real life. The Sudetenland moment is here. But it doesn't stay forever. It probably doesn't stay all year. And in fact, violence has started because communities of legal immigrants, of legally, people who are here legally shouldn't be demonized and excoriated by anyone here. They shouldn't be threatened and terrorized and brown-shirted, scapegoated, endangering lives. That should never happen. But it definitely should never happen from a presidential or vice presidential candidate. Little boys. So don't fucking do it anymore! It will not be tolerated. Your tolerance will be tolerated. Your intolerance will not be tolerated at all. If you try to harm people, you will be crushed. Your careers will be dust. Your connection to power will be ended forever. No one has to lose a drop of blood for you to lose connection to human family commensurate with your violence. So before more violence happens, stop yours now! And yes, soft words said with or without a smile are violence as you are speaking them. So it stops now. The dog whistles are clear. The Nazi quotes are clear. The refusal to answer questions which are necessary to be answered or you don't advance are clear. You are breaking the law. You are breaking the rules. You are breaking the expectations of humanity, and you are breaking the decency of American human beings. Stop it! Stop it forever! Or you will be stopped. And the methods will be innovative. You won't know what happened until books are being written about it. Just stop. Just take a second to step back and realize you're surrounded and vastly outnumbered Nazis. And become afraid, as you should be! Because you realize that you threatened people you didn't need to with weapons you shouldn't be holding over lies! Never do it again. Never do it again. No, we will not have a purge except for of your terror urge. That's what we'll purge. We will purge your terror urge. Go back where you came from, colonizer. The answer is no. Why would someone ever try to make people swallow a demonstrable lie? Why does anyone ever do that deeply abusive, gaslighting, torturous bullshit? But for sure, for real, for triple truth, Ruth, why would the President of the United States, why would someone who wanted that office and asked for the watch then betray us immediately by showing us they were a faulty reporter of the truth? Why would they make us accept immediately that they would do whatever the fuck they wanted and say any lie they wanted? Why would they make us accept a massive lie? Why? Lie.
I made a speech. I looked out. The field it looked like 1.5 million people. They showed a field where there were practically nobody standing there.
The new White House press secretary, Sean Spicer, gave his first press briefing. He was also highly critical of some media organisations of the way he felt they had misrepresented the number of people who'd attended Friday's inauguration ceremony.
No one had numbers because the National Park Service, which controls the National Mall, does not put any out. This was the largest audience to ever witness an inauguration, period. both in person and around the globe.
It's
It
still
does
out
not
there.
excuse, and you did not answer the question.
I did answer
no,
your
you
question.
did not. You did
Yes,
not
I
answer
did.
the question of why the president asked the White House press secretary to come out in front of the podium for the first time and utter a falsehood. Why did he do that? It undermines the credibility of the entire White House press office
No, it
on day
doesn't.
one.
Don't be so overly dramatic about it, Chuck. You're saying it's a falsehood, and they're giving Sean Spicer, our press secretary, gave alternative facts to that. But the point
Wait a
remains.
minute. Alternative.
This was the largest ever.
J.D. Vance and Donald Trump may be able to put a veneer on it, but what they're putting a veneer on is an oncoming iceberg of a Nazi patriarchal terrorist dictatorship. What they're putting a smile on is the unthinkable, and that unthinkable will murder millions of people. What they're putting a smile on is the belief that you won't be strong enough to consider that they actually would do that, to see that they are doing it right now. They believe that we are too cowardly, too weak, and too blitzed by their shocking boundary violations to recognize what's happening. But, interestingly enough, they're mistaken. They are actually mistaken. We can calibrate. We can calm, we can meditate to reflect and sort out amidst all of this hokum and fear and daily renewed terrorism. We can establish executive function, calm, meditation, mirroring with people that we trust. We can recognize where reality is. Even as people like Stephen Miller and Steve Bannon and Russell Brand and Donald Trump and Tucker Carlson and Marjorie Taylor Greene and Ron DeSantis try to sew a different web of reality that is only veneer. It's fairly easy to crack through the new repaired face of the Matrix. The new repaired face of the Matrix shatters very easily. You only have to ask, are you real? And it starts to smile and tell you, well, I'm thinking about the future now. We're in incredible danger because the new Boston Dynamics lying robot is in some ways superior to the old one. But J.D. Vance is a Nazi, and Donald Trump is at least a Nazi collaborator. We're dealing with absolute degradation. And wouldn't it be interesting to see, I think what's maybe what we have someone who is maybe actually not a Nazi, technically, but certainly willing to work with them and exploit Nazis. And interestingly enough, while he may not be a true believer in Adolf Hitler, Donald Trump is absolutely that bad. what we're seeing is someone who is not just interested. It's a lie that he's interested in having the ability to do terrible things, to do good things. He's looking for the ability to do terrible things because he wants conquest that is absolute. He wants to be able to skin people and film it and laugh about it. He wants to be able to have the power to do the most disgusting things imaginable, the most defiling, terroristic, destructive of everyone around him things, and still be celebrated. He wants to turn murder into music by trumping reality. He wants to turn his name apparent to all others as the verb. He believes he is the trumping thing. And trumpeting that means breaking people. It means breaking parts of reality that don't comport with his fantasy of himself. That if he sees someone he believes he should be married to, they're already married, and anyone who says otherwise is interfering with marriage. He said he would keep us in suspense. After thousands of claims of rigging, he did do plenty of rigging and plenty of projecting, and still lost in 2020, and still said that he didn't. And we have the recordings of Steve Bannon talking about how that was the plan all along. We have recordings of Donald Trump saying much the same, that the plan was simply to profess that they'd won no matter what, and to blitz. To blitz with shocking boundary violations and confidence and coercion, to simply blitz. To delay, to obfuscate, to hold hostage. And then he says it actually wasn't so bad, and he sings with them. What larger statement of allegiance could he have made? Someone who takes pains to be incredibly caustic and mean to people took the time to go and sing with them and make a hit song out of the recording. A narcissist doesn't do something nice for other people. They do something that seems nice for other people for themselves. And it's pretty clear to see with the quid pro quo he's trying to cultivate of pardons for a presidency, the corruption is incredibly clear. And to some extent, people are saying he wouldn't do that because they want him to be able to do it. They want him to be able to be believed so that he can once again have access to steal something that he's there to protect or to have access to do his job. Oh, hey, you can get access to the nuclear football. Cool. Go get the job and grab the football and we'll meet you back at the clubhouse. We are looking at some of the worst people in humanity attempting to steal the White House. And they already did Insurrection Part 1. We should have ironclad proof that they're not here for Part 2 if we were ever going to let them try to come back. But I think most of our actions show that a lot of us simply feel coerced. And the answer is no. No. No, you don't get to just come back. No, you banging on the door where you assaulted a family member. We're getting a restraining order and know this isn't marriage interference, not only had you done terrible things before you came here to hurt somebody, without this crime, you are dragging all kinds of crimes around with you. So wanting a restraining order is not marriage interference, and wanting to know other people or wanting to find other people for the role that you have is not election interference, the role that you want. Those things would be true if it were all about you. But the pathway to finding out whether or not American justice in America can survive is not the path of finding out, can we give absolute authority to one person? The answer to that is no. So if we're on a path to that, we are clearly dealing with a Confederate sleeper cell. The time is now to speak directly to Donald Trump and to say, absolutely not. No one talks to us that way. That you use this language shows you are entirely incompetent and categorically a terrorist. You are tickling the spectrum of terror, trying to promote fear of fear itself. No. I wonder if we'll ever actually learn who has donned the falsehood.
You have been warning at rallies recently that this election is rigged and that Hillary Clinton is in the process of trying to steal it from you. Your running mate, Governor Pence, pledged on Sunday that he and you, his words, will absolutely accept the result of this election. Today, your daughter Ivanka said the same thing. I want to ask you here on the stage tonight, do you make the same commitment that you will absolutely, sir, that you will absolutely accept the result of this election?
I will look at it at the time. I'm not looking at anything now. I'll look at it at the time. What I've seen is so bad. First of all, the media is so dishonest and so corrupt, and the pile-on is so amazing. The New York Times actually wrote an article about it that they don't even care. It's so dishonest, and they've poisoned the minds of the voters. But unfortunately for them, I think the voters are seeing through it. I think they're going to see through it. We'll find out on November 8th, but I think they're going to see through it.
But, sir, there's
if you look, excuse me, Chris, if you look at your voter rolls, you will see millions of people that are registered to vote. Millions. This isn't coming from me. This is coming from Pew Report and other places. Millions of people that are registered to vote that shouldn't be registered to vote. So let me just give you one other thing. So I talk about the corrupt media. I talk about the millions of people. Tell you one other thing. She shouldn't be allowed to run. She's guilty of a very, very serious crime. She should not be allowed to run. And just in that respect, I say it's rigged. Because she should never, Chris, she should never have been allowed to run for the presidency based on what she did with emails and so many other things.
But, sir, there is a tradition in this country. In fact, one of the prides of this country is the peaceful transition of power, and that no matter how hard fought a campaign is, that at the end of the campaign, that the loser concedes to the winner, not saying that you're necessarily going to be the loser or the winner, but that the loser concedes to the winner and that the country comes together in part for the good of the country. Are you saying you're not prepared now to commit to that principle?
What I'm saying is that I will tell you at the time. I'll keep you in suspense.
Well,
okay?
Chris, let me respond to that because that's horrifying. You know, every time Donald thinks things are not going in his direction, he claims whatever it is rigged against him. The FBI conducted a year-long investigation into my emails. They concluded there was no case. He said the FBI was rigged. He lost the Iowa caucus. He lost the Wisconsin primary. He said the Republican primary was rigged against him. Then Trump University gets sued for fraud and racketeering. He claims the court system and the federal judge is rigged against him. There was even a time when he didn't get an Emmy for his TV program 3 years in a row, and he started tweeting that the Emmys were rigged against him.
Should have gotten it.
This is a mindset. This is how Donald thinks. And it's funny, but it's also really troubling.
Okay.
Now, that is not the way our democracy works. We've been around for 240 years. We've had free and fair elections. We've accepted the outcomes when we may not have liked them. And that is what must be expected of anyone standing on a debate stage during a general election. You know, President Obama said the other day, when you're whining before the game is even finished, it just shows you're not up to doing the job. And let's be clear about what he is saying and what that means. He is denigrating, he's talking down our democracy. And I, for one, am appalled that somebody who is the nominee of one of our two major parties would take that kind of position.
I think what the FBI did and what the Department of Justice did, including meeting with her husband, the Attorney General, in the back of an airplane on the tarmac in Arizona, I think it's disgraceful. I think it's a disgrace.
All right.
I think we've never had a situation so bad.
Hold on, folks. This doesn't do any good for anyone. Let's please.
This is the thing, of course, that in doing the unthinkable, in scathing gentleness and kindness itself, he pivots then to talk about others doing horrible things against human decency. It was a disgrace. Actually, we're talking about a disgrace. It's interesting that you try to project a different disgrace, that you try to what about. But we're talking about a disgrace. We're talking about the disgrace that anyone would show up for a presidential debate thinking they get to coerce us into breaking the rules for them. You ridiculous Nazi fuck. You liar. You crook. You con man. You coercing, predatory cancer. You are carrying the tolerant buckle, where tolerance buckles to abject hatred and intolerance. You are carrying the buckle of basic human moral character. You are carrying perfect greed and perfect hate. You are carrying weapons that no one needs, that no one uses unless they don't know it's monstrous or don't care that they're a monster. You speak of disgrace to distract from ultimate disgrace. You will not keep us in suspense. We may not trust, but if we do, we will trust but verify. We will verify whether or not we trust. We do not need to believe you, and we are no longer so stupid as to believe you. No one is that stupid. But we do remember that you are a good, quality, experienced liar. We remember that you are an incredible liar, and so the comprehension does ask us to be very mindful indeed. The kind prehension sees even very difficult things ahead and knows that we can take them on. The comprehension noticed Kevin Roberts making dangerous threats. We noticed this, and we found a way to help Kevin. And so it certainly is to his best step forward to apologize to human family, and in particular to the global majority, as he retires and heads into mental care for his hateful intolerance. His hateful intolerance and this ideology that he just tried to threaten Americans with. We can apprehend terrorists like Kevin Roberts, and hopefully by enlisting them to arrest themselves, to arrest the course of their terrorism. We can help someone like Kevin Roberts look in the mirror and decide, instead of asking for help with his lynch mob, to ask for help taking the lynch mob inside of him apart. Even Nazi heretics like Kevin Roberts deserve their chance at life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And we should help him to therapy or jail.